right. Hello. All right, we need some music today. Hey, Sharon. Just getting some music on for today. Oh, that's going to be really, really, really loud. All right, I should turn that down then. How you doing today? Been getting any painting done the last couple of days? I'm so not caught up on the chat. So not caught up on the chat. Hey Ish, how you doing? Hey Janice. Hello everybody. Hey Barb. It's like reading Rainbow. That's okay, Ish. I'm glad you were able to pop in to say hi. We miss ya. We love ya. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad all you guys are here. You guys ready to do the next chunk on this bad boy? So, refresher. We've done the base. We are going to add in the detail. Talk top dots for getting these glowy colors, and we're going to talk a little bit about corners as well. So but we're going to focus on the top dots first, and then the corners we will fill in space while we're waiting for top dots to dry for us to continue on. All right, let me just check on comments. Hey Jen, how you doing? Oh wow, Ish, that's big. That's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to get ready for a move. I've been painting these little things called chalkboard tags. Oh, cool. Oh, that's fun. How are they to paint on, Sharon? I'm doing great too. Thank you, Jen. Hey, Jan. No kidding. Yeah, that's a lot to get ready for, my dear. You just keep taking care of yourselves. We are not going anywhere. I'm excited for you. That's always fun. I always liked moving and getting into a new place and a fresh start. And where am I going to put all of my stuff? And then I always end up purging some stuff that I've been carrying around for too long. I find it all very, very cathartic and very, I mean, it's still stressful, but it's, there are certainly some fun parts for sure. Oh, that's awesome, Sharon. That's fun. Hello, Axel. It's good to see you. Yeah, totally. Are you painting your room and everything again, Ish? Almost got lost at the craft store. Did you find anything? I know Michael's has a huge sale going on right now. I took a quick look through it. I know it's a bunch of canvases and stuff to paint on, but I didn't kind of go any deeper than that because I'm terrified I'm going to go and spend money. But yeah, if anybody is itching to spend some money on craft supplies, Michael's has a big sale. Hello, Melinda. Hello, Rex. It's so good to see you guys. All right. And I'm doing good. Thank you, Axel. All right, let's jump into this. Let's talk colors. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just re-examine the piece that we are modeling. So when you see up nice and close, we have 3 layers of top dots on each of these main colors. So what we're going to do first is we're going to mix all of our colors. I'm going to use a palette. You can use anything that you have around. You can a plate, a piece of wax paper, anything that you have around to mix some paints. And we are going to get those all ready to go. And then we're going to start building up these top dots. And then once we're done the top dots, as far as we can go, until we have to wait for them to dry a little bit more, then we will look at corners and how we would add corners if we want to. It depends on the size of the piece that you're working on, of course. You might not have any space for corners, but I'll go through how I do corners and we'll go from there. See what we can get figured out here. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move this for a minute while we mix some paints. I haven't decided. I'm going to start with setting up the room with the decor and furniture I already have and seeing. Nice. Yeah, live in it for a little bit, right? Corners are hard on round canvases too. Yes, yes, exactly. If you're using a round canvas, a stone, anything round, not going to really have any use for corners, but we'll go through what you would do if you had them, just so that if you ever do a piece in the future where you want to fill some space, we'll go through that. It's a little bit just with spacing and getting a couple guidelines in there, but otherwise and we'll talk about all the different options that you can do to fill empty space on your canvas. So my piece is 12 inches square. I want to see the room painted in a light bronze with violet curtains. Ooh, that would be beautiful. All right, you guys, let's mix some paint here. So I've got my 3 original colors here. So what I'm going to do is I am mixing each of them. Got a couple stir sticks here ready to go. Hey, Paula. So we're going to start with the pink. So to mix with the pink, I have 2 things I'm going to add. I've got a neon pink, and I have an acrylic white. The reason I do the fluorescent pink is the same reason I do the teal, but as you can see with the purple, I just added white. There's no real color change here. So if you went the same route with the purple and do that with all of these, it would still look absolutely gorgeous and look like it's glowing in the dark. And you could add another dimension by putting a little tiny, tiny white top dot on there like I did with the center dot, and that would just, bam, pop it right out. So you can either add some brighter colors. So for my blues, I'm going to add a little bit of teal and then get it to this. So it's kind of a 50-50 mix here, and then really have this bright spot on top. And then for the fluorescent pinks, I'm just going to mix different gradients of some fluorescent pink in there, and maybe a little bit of white to get that nice and bright for the pink. Does that make sense? All right, so first thing I want to do is create the first top dot that I'm going to lay down. So I'm going to take a little bit of the original color. There's not much of it left. And you're going to kind of just see how much you get in there. Okay, a few drops. If you're pouring directly from a bottle, 3 or 4 drops. In listening mode, that's all right. I'm glad you're here. Hello, Brianna. How you doing? Okay, so with this one, I'm going to add in... Oops. A little crusty. I'm going to add in some fluorescent pink. And then just see what this color turns out to be. And because I still have my original, I can kind of just see how they differ. I never assume that I know what it's going to do, just because I get surprised all the time by how colors mix together. But this is turning out to be really, really nice. It would be just as good if you just added some white. All right, so then I'm going to mix my third and final color, which is going to be just a tiny, tiny bit of the original. And I'm actually not, I don't even think I'm going to use the white. I'm just going to use mostly the fluorescent. Oops, I got a hair in there. Gotta love living with so many animals. It's not a Fred hair though, Barb. The other option too is I could use the bright fluorescent pink as my final top dot. Oh, sorry, it's shaking so bad. Sorry, guys. This is the pink. This one is the pink. You could do this with the purple though as well. If you don't want to go just by adding white like I did in my original design, you could add some pinks, fluorescent pinks to your purple, and that could be a really cool color grade that you could do for your top dots. With blues, you could mix in other greens and go to lime green instead of a teal. That's an option. Gotta get rid of another hair that's floating around there. It's everywhere. Yeah, so this one is the blue. trying to see if I can get, I wonder if I turn this lamp off, if you can see the colors better. Is that a little bit better? I feel like it's not picking up the color very well today. Just gonna pick off some more crusty stuff off of the end of my bottle. My bottles get really crusty on the ends. So every once in a while I go through, pop them off. All right. So about a 50-50 mix of the original color and the teal. And again, you could do this with yellow and get it to go to green. You could do it with white to just go to paler blues. You could mix lime greens in it to go to lime green as your top dot. You could go darker if you wanted to. You could add pinks to it and go purple. You could really do anything you want, but the point is whatever you want your top dot to be, you want to be kind of at a 50-50 split for one of them, and then get to the final top dot color. So my final top dot color is going to be that teal. For the blue dots, so again, so if you're doing 3 top dots, this one's going to be the middle layer of paint. So this one's going to be almost a 50-50 mix between the original pink and this fluorescent pink to make this one. Then for the blues, this one here is almost a 50-50 mix of my top dot color and my original color. Does that make sense? You can have so much fun with all of the different ways to mix these colors. I'm going to keep going with it with the exact same pattern that I did on that other piece, just for consistencies of what we're looking at. It'll be slightly different, but for the most part. Hello, Autumn. How are you? Now, when we're going from blue to a teal or a dark pink to a fluorescent pink, when you're mixing 2 different colors together, then that's when you do your 50-50. Now, when I did my purples, though, my top purple dot isn't white. It's just a really light purple. So I don't want to make this second layer a complete 50-50 mix of white and purple, right? Because I want my top one to actually be a light purple. So I want this to be just a slightly lighter. So let me put some of this in here. So very, very little white. I mean, very, very little purple in here. So I've got a nice light purple that's going to be my final top dot. And I apologize for the shaking of the camera because my arm is on my table. It's going to shake the camera too. Okay, so this is going to be my final top dot for my purples. And so now, though, I want to create a shade that is basically between this one and this one. So I'm going to add a little bit of white. Now, if you're adding white, go drop by drop to see, because you can literally get to a point where you just do 1 drop too many, and then you got to add more purple in to make it darker and start all over again. Even this one, I think, is... Oh, no, that one looks pretty good. I think I'm going to give it a little bit more purple, though. So these are all for our top dots, okay? So in a lot of dot mandala art, you're going to see top dots being used a lot. It's a great way to add dimension, to add some different effects, like the ones that we're doing here is giving kind of a glow-in-the-dark 3D effect almost. Actually going to do... Yeah, that actually looks pretty good. But you can do different colors too. I've done pieces where the bottom dot was red, the first layer was orange, and the top dot was yellow. I've done ones where the purple dots had blue top dots, and the blue ones had green top dots, and just kind of alternate things around that way. Sorry guys, 1 second. So just making sure that you're alternating stuff around, but you can play with these top dots as much as you want. If you want a real 3D effect, like to make them look like they're almost like pearls, that's when you really want to work your way towards a final white top dot. So for example, these are all going towards a white top dot, right? So you don't have to only do 3 layers as well. You can do 4 or 5 layers of top dots if you want. Each of these actually has 4 layers. The more gradually you change the color, the more kind of jump out at you 3D effect you're kind of gonna get. Okay, does that make sense? Yes, so these are all mixed, Geraldine, because we are adding top dots to our original colors. So we're gonna be adding these top dots. So we did on last week, we did the base color of the blue. So now we're gonna add this lighter blue and this teal, and same with on these other colors. So I was just mixing these colors here. So just as a refresher, my final top dot is going to be this row up here. This is my original colors here, and these ones are almost a perfect mix of 50-50 between the top row and the bottom row. Okay, so we're ready to start putting top dots on our piece. So I'm going to move these paints aside, and I'm going to set up again so that you guys can see the original piece as we're working on this new one. Now we are going to start, actually for this one, we'll actually start up nice and close because we're going to start with those tiny dots in the middle. So when you are doing top dots, you want to create an edge of color, okay? So when you do a top dot, finding the size of top dot that you want to go on here is really up to you about how big of an edge you want on each color. And it kind of makes it almost uniform, and you want to try and keep that uniform going all the way to your final top dot if you can. That's going to help with the kind of 3D effect again as well. So whatever size tool you used, you don't have to remember what size tool you used. If you have your tools with you, you can take them out and you can place them on top of some dots to see, well, that looks like approximately a 13. So then I'm going to go down at least 2 sizes for the next one, probably a 2 full sizes. So you want to create a top dot that's smaller than your original dot, and in these small center circles, that usually for me means that if I'm using my DIY mandala stones, I am using a 2 or a 3, or I'm using my nail dotting stylus tools to get a really small dot in there in the middle. Now, even though this is in here, I still want to try and get, if I can, get both layers of top dots. So I want to create one top dot in this darker color and know that I at least have a spot for a quick little, even just a pinprick of the final light color in the very center. So I need to figure out what size tool I used on that first one, or use your nail dotting stylus tools and just go with something smaller. Always err on the side of caution and go smaller than you think you need to. Because if you go bigger than you think you need to, then you might even paint over your entire dot. I've had that happen. It's not a big deal. If it does, wait for it to dry and go back in and paint over it with your original dot color. Wait for that to dry and then try your top dot again. Or pull the whole thing off and do your base color again. You could paint it black again. Pull all of that paint off. Totally up to you, okay? But it's easily fixable, so I always go on the side of caution and go smaller than I think I'm going to need to. So when I just put this tool down here, let me see if I can get you at a good angle here. So without any shadow, this is gonna be a trick. Okay, so see when I put my tool down here, there's really, can you see that? That there's really not much of an edge there. Let me try on this one. So see how when I put my tool down, you can't really see a lot of the purple, right? Let me try over here and see if this, right? You really can't see a ton of the purple. This tells me that once I put paint on this tool, it's probably gonna give me too big of a top dot and it's gonna almost fill this entire thing. So my first test is to say I'm going smaller than this one I just tested with. The one I just tested with was a 3. So now I'm going to go and try and find my size 2. And it's in my hand. Okay. This is the day. This is the day we're going to do. All right. So I'm going to go in with a size 2. And I'm going to dip my tool and then put a dot. Oh, and see, even that's a little bit too big. So I'm actually going to switch to the 1. Because this paint is a little bit waterier. And that's going to happen. That's okay. It's not something I'm going to go in and fix, because it's really not a total game changer. If it was one of the larger dots, then I would probably fix it. But for the first inner row, I don't think it's something worth stressing over. Especially because there's enough going around it, and we still have to erase guidelines, and that's going to give some definition on the whole piece. And I am going to go back in and do that other layer of top dot on top of this. So that's going to be okay. So you want to try and create an edge there. This is going to be much easier to see when we get to the larger circles. But just know when you see it on the larger ones, that's what I'm trying to accomplish here. I'm trying to see if I can zoom in. Okay, there. You see how there's kind of an edge there? So that that top dot doesn't take up. This is a great camera angle, by the way. It doesn't take up the entire dot below it. This is a great camera angle. Damn, that looks good. There we go. How are we doing? Is everybody doing okay? Let me know if you have any questions at all, okay? So I used my 1. I know that when I was building this piece, I went up by 2 sizes. So I could try with the 2, or I could try again with the 3. So I'm gonna put my tool on here just to see. And it looks like I still have quite a bit of space there. So I'm gonna go with the 3. Finally, you can see with the nice close-up. Is that helpful? All right, let's see here. All right, so I'm going in, again, not with my darker of the 2. And hopefully I don't cast too much shadow here. We're gonna get a nice big view of my hand. That's fun too. There we go. So see how I'm still getting that edge where the original color can be seen in behind? You want to try really, really hard to keep that uniform on all of your dots. When you're doing top dots and you're being very particular about the size like this, this is when you need to be cleaning off your tool very, very, very regularly. Perfect world scenario, you would clean it off after every single dot, because the paint is going to build up, and when you want to try and create that uniformity, especially on something so small, once you get to the larger dots, it's a different story. But when you're trying to create that on something so small, that can be a real pain. So you want to be cleaning off that tool, because every extra little bit of paint that sticks on that tool is going to change the size and the shape of your dots. There we go. I find this part of the process really zen, and I've said this to you guys before too. I find this whole design very, very zen. Like when I want to just numb out a little bit and just zone out and get into that meditative flow state, this is the kind of design that I choose. So that's what it looks up nice and close. And see how it's already starting to have that bit of a glowy effect? Right? So we'll come back to here. So I know I went up 2 sizes. Again, you don't have to remember how you did the piece before. All you have to do is have your tools so that you can go in and kind of reference and say, okay, this is what I did the last time, and this one looks like it's a little bit too big, so I'm gonna go down a size, and I'm gonna do this one. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So, you know, you just test it out just by trying your tools. You could write it all down if you want to. You totally, totally could, but only if that's fun for you. If it makes life easier for you. Okay, and we're doing the same thing. And sorry for the close-up of my hand there. So see how these paints are going to dry darker as well, right? But you're already starting to see kind of that glow-in-the-dark effect start to come in. Just that little bit. It's my favorite. I was so excited when you guys wanted to do this for the tutorial because I love this pattern. I want to put it on everything. And so cleaning off your tool. The reason I'm not cleaning off my tools is simply because I have a little bit different muscle memory and I kind of know what I can get away with on my tools. But if I was starting out, when I was starting out, I cleaned my tools incessantly. So making sure that you have a damp cloth or a paper towel or something nearby. If you're using tools like the DIY mandala stones or the nail dotting tools, you want to make sure that you're not wiping it off only on something dry. You want to have a little bit of water there to make sure that your tools are getting super clean. Because if they're not and you're leaving behind little bits of paint that aren't coming off, then that again could impact the size and shape of your dots going forward when you use that with the next section, okay? On your DIY mandala tools, how many sizes are the set you are using? The big one is 27. Yes. Yes, you are understanding perfectly correctly, Rex. Yep, so they go from 1 to 27. Oh, 28. Ah, 28. 1 to 28 with double-sided, double-ended. Yeah, baby wipes. Great idea, Christy. Great idea. All of that stuff would work. Okay, so now I'm going back to my blue, and I'm going to just pull you out a little bit farther so you can see. It's fun to watch this from a little bit farther back. You start to see it changing. And this is the hard part about top dots, is top dots can really, really push a piece over the edge in both good and bad ways, right? There are times where you're going to say, oh, I should have stopped. And then there are going to be times where you sit and look at it and say, it's not done yet. I need more. I need more. I need to do more. Trust your gut. There's no right or wrong. It's all, what do you feel like doing? What do you want to do? What do you want to see? Even if it doesn't turn out well, I just want to try it and see if it works. Because if it works, then that'd be cool. And if it doesn't, that's okay. I'll try something else. Be very kind to yourself when it comes to experimenting with this stuff. That's how you figure out what you like and what you don't like and what you want to try next, right? So see how that's filling out nicely? And it's a fairly, I like this part of the process too because and that's actually a little bit small, so I'm gonna have to go up a size. So see how it's just a little bit on the small side. So I'm gonna go up a size. I find that this is a really gratifying part of the process because it's fairly quick, right? Once you kind of get into the flow of it, again, like is kind of the goal, it can give you some instant gratification or some pretty darn close to instant gratification. It's not a super long process to start seeing what these finishing touches would look like. And on that same note, when we're talking about don't be afraid to try things and to experiment, always remind yourself, the worst thing that's going to happen is that I don't like it and I paint over it and I redo it. Or I'll finish to the end of this project, but I know next time I don't want to do this. Or I hate it, I don't like it, I don't want to do it anymore, and you scrap the project and start over. None of those things are the end of the world, right? So give yourself permission to play and experiment and mess up and do things that you don't like. That's the only way you're going to know which direction you want to go next time, right? Let me check here. Hey, Manon. I think that's the math that would work out, Rex. I can count them for you to be sure, but I think that that's the math. I've never counted them to see. But yes, I believe so. Yes, Geraldine, I am dotting on a canvas panel. This is a 12-inch square canvas panel. I have less tools. I'm going to use the same for 2 rows. Yes, and you can totally do that. That's a really good point to make, Rex, because you can change the size of your dot by changing the amount of paint on your tool, right? So you don't have to always change the size of your tool if you're able to do one size with less paint and one size with a little bit more paint, right? Really, really, really good point. And just keep going all the way out to the outskirts of our piece and cover every single one of these colored dots that we did last week. Oops, a little bit more paint. See, I just went in and added more paint and it made the dot bigger. Play with your paints, really get to know your paints. Every time you do a dot, say, what would happen if I added more paint? Could I add more paint to my tool? What would happen if I did? Or how would this dot look if I added less paint? And what's the new muscle memory I need to create to be able to do that repetitively? Right? You start to recognize what your hand is doing and what feels different. You know, you put your hand down in a slightly different spot, you're gonna feel it, right? Let's move this over here. That all comes with time. The biggest thing with this art form that I have found is slow down and just take your time. Different than slowing down. Slowing down is like slowing down the speed of your dots, and in my mind, taking your time is just really letting yourself sit and feel what you're doing and what do you like, and really look at it and don't only look at it from am I making it look like the person I'm trying to make it look like? Do I like what I'm doing? What's comfortable? What isn't comfortable? What is something that I like about this? Was there a part of this piece that I really hated that I really don't want to ever do again? You know, kind of going through all of that stuff can be really, really helpful. Okay, we're making progress. Here we go. I think this one, I'm just going to keep going. The nice thing is you work from the center inward, from the center outward. Now, the frustrating part is going to be when you see your inner dots drying and being dry enough for a top dot, but your outer dots are not yet dry. Please use caution if you decide to go in and do those center top dots sooner than the paint is dry on the whole piece. That's how I've stuck my arm in tons of pieces. I don't know if you guys saw the rainbow guitar I did last summer, but I wiped almost a quarter of the entire painting off with my arm because I reached over some outer rows to get to some inner rows because I was being impatient and I just wanted to keep going. And yeah, I ended up swiping a whole section of the painting with my arm. Like I was covered wrist to elbow in paints. And I cried that day. That was a big one. That one hurt. So this is why you'll often see me as well having multiple projects on the go at the same time, right? Because if I'm putting something aside to dry, I'm immediately asking myself, so what am I going to do while it dries? Am I just sitting around waiting for it to dry, or do I have another project to work on, or am I going out to run some errands? I really look at what am I doing while this is drying to kind of help me decide, do I just sit and it keep me impatient? I try to also keep myself occupied with something else so that I'm not just sitting and waiting for the paint to dry, because then I will get impatient and I will take risks that are really going to only add frustration to my life, right? So just keep that in mind, that when you get to that point, really, really think about whether you want to be reaching over stuff that is still wet to get to some dry spots. And it's hard not to. It's really, really, really hard not to. All right, let's see if that's going to be big enough. Nope, that's not going to be big enough. So that edge that I was talking about is now getting a lot bigger. So that's why I now need to go to the larger size tool, right? Because these dots are getting so much bigger. Oh, let me scroll back. Am I doing the big center dot as well? Yep, we were totally supposed to do that one. So if you are at a point where you can reach over, then yeah, do your center dot, or wait and we'll start it on the way back out. Thank you, Barb. Oh, sorry, you guys. All right, so I am going to risk it because I can still put my hand here and still reach and put that top dot down. So I'm going to go with the size 20. I think I did a 24. But let's see. There we go. The center dot is stressful. Take your time with it, go slow, and try and place it as best you can before you put the tool down. Or even position your hand. I'll do this a lot. I'll position my hand and get it steady. And I see kind of where I need to put it so that it does actually go center. And then I try really hard to go back to that same spot and get in that same feel again to put that dot down. I hope that makes sense anyways. I hope that helps. Oh, I'm glad it's helpful, Geraldine. Yes, really, really, really good point, Jan. You can make larger tools. Tacks and pencil erasers, gluing a dime is a great idea. Allen wrenches in your toolboxes, your drill bits. Drill bits are phenomenal because they go fairly large. You could use the tops of paint bottles. You could use anything that's round, right? Finally used for those IKEA furniture tools, right? Yeah, it works great. Anything that's round can do that for you. All right, let's keep going with these top dots. So I'm still being mindful to not cover the whole base dot because I want that dark blue to show through. These are the runs that you can get in, and just focus on your breath. If you focus on slowing down your breath while you're doing this, that's where the real meditative and stress relief comes into play. I like to do short inhales and long exhales. So I actually inhale while I'm dipping my tool. I hold it, and then I exhale when I start placing the dot. Then I hold it, and then I inhale while I'm dipping the tool. Sometimes a fast one, usually like a count of 2. I find it incredibly enjoyable. What happened? My tool rolled and smudged one of my top dots. Okay, so that's a really, really good question, Christy. Don't worry, don't panic. We can fix this, okay? So on those two dots, do you still have your original paint colors from your original 3? Because what you're gonna need to do is you can take a paper towel or something just to pull the moisture of the smudged paint off. You're gonna need your base coat, so if you use black like I did here, okay? So you're gonna need your black, you're gonna need and your original colors. Okay, so start with a paper towel or a cotton swab, something that you can use to pull that paint off. So for example, if I was using, I'll do one with you, Christy. So I'm gonna do this one. I'm gonna literally smudge it right across those two. Okay, so I'm in it with you. Okay, so I'm gonna take my cotton swab and I'm just gonna start pulling that smudged paint off. You can do this with a paper towel, anything at all. Okay. Hey, Paula, welcome back. Awesome. Okay, so I'm just pulling all of that paint off to make it as dry as humanly possible, right? So now I can see that one of my purple dots has been affected, one of my blue dots has been affected, and my black background has been affected. So the way that I would do it is if you have a paintbrush or a toothpick, or you can use anything, you could use the end of any kind of tool to cover that up. That's okay. This is a good thing to go through because this is something that will happen someday and it's fixable. That's love, Christy, when the teacher purposely makes a mistake for a student. If I can take some of the fear away from this, you guys, the stuff that you can create when you're not fearing it, right? I know. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to worry about trying to get this perfectly neat on the background. I'm just going to throw some black paint on here, okay? And then we're going to wait for it to dry. If it's only smudged on one dot, Christy, clean off the smudged paint and get out your original color again. Oops, I still needed a bit more black. Get out your original color and find the same size tool you did for the original flat dot. And then just put a new dot down. Okay, and I'm going to do it just like this too. I'm not worried about getting the edges right. It's totally okay. Deep breaths, everybody. Deep breaths. It's okay. Deep breaths. Even when it seems like it would be something, and it will. Like when I do this and I'm on my own, there was a little part of me that died when I did that. It's okay. We're all in it together, I promise. However, and I still have those reactions when I'm creating a piece, when I'm sitting here by myself. If I make a mistake, I swear like a sailor, I gasp, I cry, I get angry, I walk away. It happens, okay? But 99.99999% of things can be fixed. I promise, okay? So you throw a little of your base coat on. We're gonna skip past this. We're going to come back to it once that's dried. You put your base dot back on, let it dry, and then just come back in and backfill those dots later. Okay? Yeah, poor Ish. That's right. Remember when I sanded the resin? She just about passed out. Baby wipe for the win. Fantastic. There you go. So baby wipe took it off. That's the thing, right? When you remove some of that fear and say, even if I smudge this over the whole half of the paint, like if I stuck my hand in this, I won't, but if I stuck my hand in this and smudged it, I could start over, right? It's not the end of the world. It's stressful and it sucks, but it's fixable, especially when it's just in a couple small spots. It's the end of the world as I know it. It may help that I'm working on chalkboard set. And that might have a difference too. It's very possible, but at the very least, it's going to pull that extra paint off, let you wipe it off. You can let it dry. So even if it didn't work, the worst thing that you'd be doing is sitting and waiting for it to dry and then putting your base dot color back on it again. So we're going to wait for that black paint to dry. And in the meantime, I'm going to do the top dots on this purple row. And then once that black paint has dried, we'll go back in and we'll fix those ones. Sound good? Everybody okay? Yeah, she's super busy. She said she wouldn't be here for very long. So I guess she's already had to take off. All right, here we go. Let's keep going with the top dots. Oops. Now, sometimes when you get into the larger tools, this happens. It kind of bubbles a little bit. If it does, it can impact the shape of your dot. So when you get in nice and close with this guy, you see how it's got that little bit of an edge there? I have had ones that really, really bothered me, and I've gone in with the base color paint and rounded it off with a paintbrush. You can do that. What usually it means, though, is that you had not a huge amount of paint on your tool and you pushed your tool down too far. If you push your tool down too far, it's almost going to create a little bit of suction there, and that's where the bubbles can pop out. So let me show you how much paint I'm putting on this tool for this one. When you get to the larger top dots, you're going to want to be using a lot of paint. So I'm really dipping the tool in here, and it's in quite a ways. So see how much paint I have on that? And I'm not pressing it down the whole way either. Let me turn this. I'm not going to push it down the whole way either. I'm going to let the paint flow off of the tool. And once it gets to the size that I want it at, I'm going to lift up. Okay? There are a lot of dot artists out there that never, ever, ever touch their tool to their surface. That's okay too, right? I touch my tool to the surface and I haven't found that it negatively impacted things in any way for me. So, but there is a lot of satisfaction to having just so much paint on there that it just creates the dot for you. You don't really even have to do anything. So lots of paint. If it's too little paint, that's where you'll get those little suction cup areas, and that's actually just some bubbles that have gotten trapped in there. And again, if I push this one all the way down too far, then it could do it as well. So try not to push it all the way down. Okay. Now right here, I have a little drip of old white paint. Oh, there we go. I wasn't sure if that was on the surface from a drip or if it was just something that was gonna come off of there. So I'm glad it did. All right, so then we come here, top dot. And again, if you don't remember what tool size you used for the original dots, that's okay. You just try them out and see what looks like it's gonna be the right fit. Is that a 17? No, 18? No, it was higher. Higher, higher, higher. Which one? 19, 20? That's 21. Where's my 1920? There it is. 1920. So let's see here. I bet you it was the 20. So we're going to try the 20. I'm going to err on the side of caution again. I'm going to go a little smaller than it necessarily is. And we're going to cover this up. Oh, I'm sorry, Sharon. I hope you're able to feel more rested soon. Okay, I need to stir this paint a little bit. Bear with me. I got my tool in my mouth. All right, hold on a second here. Okay, can you show me how much paint is on the tool? Yes. So, tool, let's set this flat here so you can see. So I've got my little paint pot, right? I'm sticking the tool in straight up and down, and I'm covering quite a bit of the end, and it does have a good chunk on the end. The thicker your paints are, the more that is not, see how it flows from one side to the other, right? That's just because it's a watery paint, but the thicker paints, it'll stay put. All right, so let's go in and do this dot. I'm just gonna re-dip the tool. There we go. That one's fixed. We'll let it dry and we'll come back to it in a little bit and do the top dot. And then 21, 22 maybe? Is this 22? No, probably not. It's probably 23. So let's get rid of the blue paint. I hope that helps, Geraldine. I'll have you know that Sharon, that my neuro says I have beautiful temporal lobe. I think he was flirting. Yeah, get yourself a doctor. 23. Okay, that should be good. Oh, good. I'm glad it helped. Excellent. All right, so now I'm going to, this gives us a stir. And then, so the more paint, especially when you get to the larger dots, the more paint the better, because you're less likely to get that suction. There we go. All right, so those ones are fixed. We'll just dry them and then we'll go back in. All right, and in the meantime, we will do the next 3 rows of top dots and then we'll come back in and backfill. So let's see, what size do I think I need for those blue dots? 20's too big. 19 might even be too big. I think I'm gonna go to an 18. Let's try that. Watching and listening. Okay, good. Let me know any questions come up. You can't really avoid it. Now, once you've gotten in there, you can try and kind of move the paint around a little bit to get it out more towards the edge if you want to. But it's not always going to kind of self-level, but you can totally do that if you want to. I always like to do it because then it adds actual 3D, and it feels nice too, but there's nothing wrong with it. It will flatten out a lot as it dries. Should my paint be thinner so it spreads better and doesn't quite stick in the same spot? It depends. From your base ones that you did, from the base ones that you did, the base dots, how flat did they dry, Christy? Your sister really needs to clean your tools. I know. Get down here, would you? All right, let's keep going. All right, so for record, I'm using a size 18 am I going to use, did I say? Yes, an 18. So still lots of paint again. Lots of paint. So see how... There we go. You're going to find, too, that you naturally lean one way or another. So if you find that your top dots aren't quite centered the way that you want them to be, then I would recommend dotting across from you if you can, because that can help you center them a little bit better. Or dot right underneath you, right? Like I'm dotting quite a ways out in front of me because of camera angle necessities, right? If you can be right on top of it, be right on top of it. Oops, bubble, found ya. Gotcha. Oh, and that one was a little bit bigger than what I would have liked. So there's a couple things that I can say about that. One of them is, did I choose the wrong tool size overall? And if I did, then I would let it dry and then go back in and paint over my base color again and redo them. Or I need to clean the tool off more, okay? Texturedness like bumps, I guess. Okay, so Is the dot itself fairly smooth, but it's just a little raised up in the center? I don't think you can really avoid that. That's something that's going to be there. But if you want to flatten it down a little bit more, you could sit and kind of swish around the tops of your dots a little bit to spread the paint out a little bit more. If you go too thin, the risk there would be that as it's drying, it could crack. If your paint is too watery, when it dries, it can crack. And it's really, really, really frustrating when it cracks. Really, really frustrating when it cracks. I might run out of this color too. You might have to mix a couple of times if you don't mix enough. And that just is part of it. Oops, sorry, hi. What is that pink on there? Where did you come from? There we go. Get ready, Fred, his girl's coming. Tool cleaning in the barn. Maybe take a pic and put it in the group so we can see it. Yeah, that's a good idea. Trying out the techniques of not touching the canvas with the tool. Yeah, it does. It's almost like the edges of the dots just stay so much rounder when you don't touch the tool all the way down. There's something really satisfying too about having a really nice smooth dot when, especially after it dries. Like there's bubbles and excuse me, bubbles and everything and cracks happen, but it's just so satisfying when they turn out so nice and smooth. All right, I'm gonna take a quick drink of water here. Everybody doing okay so far? All right, let's move on to the pink, and then I'm gonna have to mix more of that blue. So let's go up here. Okay. Now, if you're gonna be doing a lot of back and forth on your piece, like walking away and coming back, make sure that you have something to cover up your palette. If you're mixing on a palette, wherever you've mixed your paints and done your pre-mixing, make sure you've got something to cover it up to try and keep the moisture in. I will typically take a paper towel and fold it up, excuse me, and put some water on it, and then I will put it on top of my palette, excuse me, and I will actually wrap it in tin foil or saran wrap or anything like that, just to help keep the moisture in there. So if you're going to be going back and forth and you want to keep those paints fresh, or use the little paint pots, okay? My sister won't shut up. I need to refill her wine glass. Ah, that's awesome. All right, let's keep going here. So still I want to put lots of paint on here. I got some gloppiness happening in here and I don't know where that's coming from. Here we go. Oh, little gloppiness. All right, there we go. Try again. Sometimes if your paint is really thick, you'll get those little suction spots too. So you might want to add some extra paint to the dot. So if you get any kind of, those little bubble marks or anything like that, just adding a little extra paint can make a big difference to help smoothing everything out for you. If you find that it's constantly suctioning down and you're constantly having to add, then what that usually means is that you're having to press the tool down too hard, which means you're trying to make the dot bigger and you don't have the size tool that is the most appropriate. So if you find that it's happening over and over and over again, you could get away with going up a size in your tool for those particular top dots. The nice thing is that we did just create some 50-50 mixtures between a darker and a lighter color, or a darker and a brighter color, so we can recreate. And as long as you still have some left in your palette, you can mix again. If you don't mix enough paint at the beginning, you can mix again and still be able to match what's in your palette. So I might have to mix more. I think I'm gonna have to. Oh yeah, look at all those bubbles. That's awful. So here, let me get you down and nice and close. See how there's all those? Excuse me. Excuse me again. Oh my goodness. So see how there's all those bubbles in there? That usually means that your paint, you need more paint in your container as well. Because when you're dipping down, you're getting into an edge of a container, and that's gonna create some bubbles if you're trying to scrape paint off of an edge. Okay. Oh, you're welcome, Lisa. And like even that, it's not centering really well. It's a little bit goopy. So I'm gonna move this aside and I'm gonna mix some more of the pink paints. So thankfully I still have some of the original pink. You never want to completely get rid of your original color in case we have to do a fix like we did with the smudge, right? I made that mistake once where I would lay down my first layer of dots, and then I would go back in and then just start adding white to that exact same part in the palette. And then if I made a mistake, I didn't have the original color to fall back on again. And I'm probably going to way over mix on this, but I really don't care. I want lots in here because these are large dots, and I think I might go back over some of them as well. So let's see what we got. Let's see what we can do. So I still have this little bit of an edge here, and I have this here that's all the same color, so I can still see if I am mixing properly. And I'm gonna, as I see little clumps of goopy stuff, I'm gonna try and pull them out too. Sometimes what happens is when you're remixing in the same palette, you've got little dry bits from the edges that get mixed up in the body of it. Now that looks to me to be pretty darn close. Oh, it's a little bit bright. Okay, so let's see if I can, I've got a little bit more in here. Then I'm almost out, and I don't know how I mix this original one. So whatever this comes up with, we're just gonna deal with, because it's the middle dot, and it's probably not gonna show that much anyway. So there we go. All right. We're still good. Blessed poo. Thank you, everybody. That's the best one yet. That's amazing. On one of my lives, one of our dear friends who has been on TikTok lives pretty much since I started, and her autocorrect betrays her quite often. And she was trying to tell me, bless you. Oh, that's not bright enough. Poop. Okay, well, here we go. Here's an unexpected part of this tutorial. It's not bright enough, so I need to add more fluorescent back into it. And brighten that back up because it's not quite as bright as these past ones. So just a little bit more bright pink. That looks better. Looks a little pinker. All right. I think it's still not going to be the right color, but let's see how it goes. I think it's still going to be fine. It's not super the same, but it's not that much different. Can't really tell the difference. And again, it'll be under top dots, so we should be all right. We're just going to keep going. That's dotting much better though, now that I have more paint to dip into. And there we go. And we keep it going. Still lots of bubbles in there, but that happens when you're mixing paint. But if you don't force them, then they won't pop and go kind of all wonky on you. So there we go. We're in the last row. It's fine. It's still lighter than the base dot, so we're good. All right, so now I've got to mix some more of the blue because I need more of this teal. So we're going back to the idea of a 50-50 split of color. So I'm going to add in that much. Because I know I'm doing a lot of big dots, I'm going to add a decent amount of paint in here so that I don't frustrate myself towards the end of it, right? So I've added some blue, added some teal, and give it a really, really, really good stir. What is kind of cool though is when you're mixing colors, you see how you get the swirls in it of the different colors? Sometimes leaving those swirls in there and dotting with the swirls is pretty cool. So you don't even have to fully mix your paints. That looks still a little blue to me. Let's add a little bit more of you. Yeah, that's more of what I want right there. Which means I'm going to need a little bit more. A little bit more. I'm still mixing it, it's still too blue, so I'm just going to keep going with the teal. What I'll do too is after I'm done tutorials or a project or anything like that, if I've got color left over, I will immediately look onto my shelf of paints and see if I have another color that already exists that's at least close to it, that it really wouldn't impact it if I added this paint back to that bottle. If I don't have a match like that, then what I'll do is I will get out the little paint pots and they will serve their purpose there. So I'll actually put that paint back into a paint container. All right, so now we got more blue. We can do the top dots on the final row of blue. See how it's coming together and it looks like kind of glow in the darkish? How are you guys making out? Are you guys doing okay? Do you have any questions? So I'm just going to move this over a little bit here. Now, the final layer of top dots, we're going to get to part of it, but we're not going to get to finishing, at least not my whole piece. So when I'm done this row of top dots, we're going to talk a little bit about corners and how to draw them out. And then we are going to wait for this to dry and go in and add in a few more top dots. Okay, so let's make sure, do I have the right size tool first? No, I do not, and I just put some pink down there, and that's okay. I'll paint over it. So that's 1920, the tool that I had in my hand, so I'm going to look at a 22. I'm actually going to go down to a 21 there. All right, so let's see how this one goes. Lots and lots of paint. Let's make sure you can see that. So, lots of paint. There we go. Lots of paint, and I'm not pushing my tool down far. I'm putting just enough pressure on it to get that paint to move. And even that is a little bit too large of what I want, so I'm going to go a little bit smaller on these top dots here. I want a little bit more of that dark blue edge to show through. So I could just go down a size in the tool, or I just don't push down as hard. Now on stones, Christy, the bumps are one of the things that people go for on the stones. Is so when I kind of got started in this, I had come across the concept of a meditation stone. So when it's a dot mandala on stones, the idea is to hold onto it during meditation and repeat your mantra and move your thumb or your finger to a different part, to a different dot each time you repeat your mantra. That's kind of where that got started. So you're going to see a lot of dot artists out there that are purposely trying to get super, super puffy dots. And here's my thing with super puffy dots. I think they look freaking gorgeous. I think they feel fantastic. But I am such a sucker for matte finished paint. And you can't very often find super heavy bodied matte paints. So you would have to add, if you wanted to stick with the matte finish, you would have to add in a matte medium. Usually that's by Liquitex. You can get gloss medium, so you can change matte paint into glossy paint. I've never tried it though, and it's still not, I still have a hard time kind of believing that it'll be the same. So I struggle with that a little bit. Oh, I missed that one. What size did I use for you? About there. I'm probably going to have to mix a little bit more of this purple too. That's okay. We'll deal with that. We'll deal with that in a few minutes. Okay, so let's talk now about, let's maybe not even talk about corners. Let's just talk all different options to fill in a space. So let's say you're like me and you've got your 12-inch canvas. Let me just make sure that, yeah, always reuse the paint if you can. I'm kind of that mindset that, you know what, the small amount of paint that I'm adding back into a 2-ounce bottle is fairly small and it's not going to impact the color that much. And if it does, I'll go and buy another bottle for $3, right? That way I'd not waste it, or that's why I also buy a lot of the little paint pots. Okay, so I have a 12-inch canvas, right? There we go. That's better. So I have a 12-inch canvas and I have a lot of empty space. So let's talk about different options of how you can fill this space in. Now, this is something that you want to do before doing your top dots. You want to do it while you are either planning out your piece. So once you get to learn your tools, I didn't plan this out. I've been doing this for a long time. I thought I was going to make it to the edge of this canvas with the dotting tools that I had. So you are going to be surprised a lot of the times. It's going to happen. Don't stress about it. It's okay. And we can come up with different ideas. So let's assume that you are like me, that you've been doing this for a long time. You completely believed when you got out your canvas that you thought that this piece was going to fill that entire canvas, even though you've done this pattern multiple times on other things and you didn't make the connection, right? Okay. So my options now are to say, okay, well, how am I going to fill in this space? What I would have done is before I started doing the top dots today, I would have gotten a small little piece of Bristol board, taking a piece of paper and folding it a bunch of times and actually putting it in the center. Let me show you actually what I do. Hold on one second. I'm just going to grab a little piece of cardstock here and I'll show you what I do. What I will do, grab my ruler. What I will do, let me move this too for a second. I will take a piece of cardstock. And let me grab a Sharpie. Oh, this is not going to work because this is shiny stuff. Let me grab some not shiny stuff. That's still shiny. Well, let's even just use a Post-it. Oh no, we'll use this. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a small piece that's going to have an X on it. I would actually even go smaller than this, to be brutally honest with you. I would make it, I think I'm rolling my chair over bubble wrap, sorry. I would actually even make it even smaller. Big enough to cover the top dot, the center dot. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my ruler to create a perpendicular line. I'm not going to go corner to corner. I want it to be like a cross. Doesn't have to be perfectly centered or anything. It just needs to be any cross. Doesn't even have to be perfectly divided. So what I'm looking for here is, you see how I've got the lines on my ruler? Let's bring it down here. So see how I have the lines on my ruler? I'm actually looking to make sure that the lines on my ruler, I find the longest ones that I can. So I look at a 6, for example, and I just make sure it's nice and straight with the edge of my page. And then I draw another line. Now this is going to make sense in a second why I'm doing this. This is a nice thick piece of cardstock. You could, like I said, use a piece of paper folded a bunch of times. And then what you're going to want to do is you could use a little bit of tape on the back or just work really, really slowly. Let me bring that back. What I would have done, and this is actually the thought that I'm still thinking I might do when this one is done, I still have my guidelines on here, right? They're very, very faint, but I still have my guidelines running through. You can see it more out in the edge here or down here, right? So I still have my guidelines. I would, when this is dry, I would take my little cross here and I would put it on top of this piece so that both of these lines are lined up with my guidelines. Then I would get out my compass. This is where the tape would come in handy, just a little piece of tape. Even just being okay with the idea that this might screw up my center dot and I might have to redo it, right? If that's the worst thing that happens, I can deal with that if it means that I can still fill up my entire canvas. So I would put this in the middle so it lines up with my guidelines, and then I would literally go in with my compass and I would make some more lines. Or if my guidelines are still showing, I could pick one of these guidelines and we could do, oh, that would actually be really good because I can still see that. So there's a guideline around here-ish, somewhere, right in here. You can kind of see it over on the edges here. And then I could create an entire concentric circle of dots going all the way around it, like I did in this piece. So see how we have a row of dots like this around the middle? We could create a row of dots like this around this and then start to build this design out from it again, right? Because we started with small dots, worked our way out. We could do a great big circle and some smaller dots and then continue with the exact same spacing and design and work from here out. Or sorry, from here out. Let me know if that makes sense to you. Because that's kind of what I'm thinking right now, is creating a big circle around there. Now I just need to go through it with my pencil to see if I can still see all of my lines that I need, which I think I can. Or again, you wait. Here's a trick too. Okay, hold on. So I'm trying to draw this guideline right here. So I'm holding my pencil and I'm holding my hand really nice and still. And I've got my Lazy Susan and it draws. Oops. Most of the time. Let's try here again. And there we go. We've got that guideline back again. You see that? So I've got that guideline back again. Yeah, so it wouldn't even have to be considered 4 separate areas. So that's one of the things you could do. So if you wanted to start from the corner and kind of create like your center dot in the corner and then work it back out, that would be like this. Right? So you've got as if there's another mandala over here that's coming in on the corners. Or I can just, like if I wanted to take the purple again, because the purple is the next one in the progression, right? Because I went blue, purple, blue, pink, blue, purple, blue, pink. So I could now go purple and create a whole row of dots in a large circle all the way around. And then just like I did here with this row of purple dots, I can leave enough space to leave the white, put the little white detail, and then start spacing again with the next size up and the next size up and the next size up. Does that help? That help? I hope that helps. So I think I want to do that because I think that would look really, really freaking cool. Now, I'm not going to go as small as I did in the center, but I think I'm going to go relatively small. And let's just see what that looks like. This is a fun one to try. This is a fun one to play with. So I think I'm going to go with a 6. We're going to start with a 6. Okay, good. I'm glad that makes sense. The other options, you could draw another circle in here. So if you have the Lazy Susan, like I said, you don't need to wait for it to dry. You can just do your spinning and it'll draw it back on there. Or you take your little card, wait till it all dries, use that to line up and use your compass to draw another line. You could create a bunch of those lines. You could just keep going out in all of those colors and make them really tight together without the space for the white little detail dots. You could create a small tight row of dots around here like a frame and then fill in random dots in the background. Like remember when we did these random dots in the background? Could do that. You could use a whole different color. You could come in with gold and you could create that and then fill in row after row after row. You could do random colors like that in the random dots out in the background. Completely up to you. You could make it all completely random from here on out to kind of keep it going. You could, let's just keep going through ideas here. You could take your tools here and I could start going smaller again. Right? So I could find this line here and say, okay, so right about here is my next purple dot, but instead of going up a size, I'm going to go down a size. Right? The spaces are going to be a lot bigger, so that just means our white dots need to get bigger. That's okay. You can do whatever you want. Right? Or I could do it with only the blue ones and then put a bunch of random dots in there. Yeah, you could totally make petals. Like you could do the row around and then start making petals. You could start making petals right here on this dot. This one could be my first dot with petals, right? I could do the peak dot and then the walking dots around and start creating petals from there. You totally could do that. When I say that there is no limits and you can do anything you want to do, you can do anything you want to do. It's so freaking fun, you guys. Okay. So I'm actually just going to wrap up this little bit of paint and put some water on a paper towel to keep. I think I'm just going to have to remix them, but that's okay. I'm just going to put a wet paper towel on top of these paints. Sorry. I'm literally just taking some wet paper towel. Only because I can't fit the whole section of it in my water jar. So I'm ripping it off in little pieces like paper mache. And then going right there. Okay, so I'm just going to see if I can remember where my tin foil is. I think it is over here. Yes, I keep tin foil on hand almost all of the time. And no, it is not for my art. It is because my cat loves to play with tin foil balls. So I always have a huge supply of tin foil on hand for when all of her tin foil balls are under the couch. So I don't have to go and get them. I can just make her new ones. And it comes in handy every once in a while for paints. So there we go. Wet paper towel on the little palette. Sealed it right up. And off we go. Bob's your uncle. All right. My blanket's caught underneath my chair there. Okay. All right. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to do the big circle. Because I want to see how this looks. So let's talk about how I'm going to do that. Because I want to leave spaces, right, for these little white detail dots. But I still want things to be relatively centered too, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to worry about this design at all right now. What I am worried about is my guidelines and getting around in the circle and seeing that I've got these divisions, okay? That's so handy, mine dries out so quick. Yeah, it makes a big difference. It's a total game changer, Manon. I'm so glad that that's helpful. All right, so how can I show this to you the easiest way? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to refer back to my original guidelines. So I've got my north, south, east, west, and then my corner to corner, and then this circle, okay? So I am going to pick on this circle. Do I want my dots to kind of be on top of that circle? Do I want them to be just under? So hang on here, let's get here. Do I want my dots to be on top of the circle? Just under the circle? Or just above that chalk line? Okay, completely up to you again. I personally think I'm gonna do right on the line or as close to it as I can. Actually, no, that's a lie. I'm gonna do on the edge because I find it easier to not to have to get the exact same space on a line, but I can get it pretty much up against it. So the only spots where I'm going to worry about a guideline though is other than the circle, is I'm gonna look at the poles and where it's bisected in the corners. Because what I'm going to do, and this is how I do this, and this is how you don't have to know what size tool you've got, and you don't have to guess about how it's gonna turn out. Okay, so I'm gonna use my tool, and I'm gonna put the first dot up here. Then I'm gonna spin it, and I'm always gonna dot across from me. If you guys have seen some of my earlier tutorials, this will sound familiar. I'm going to dot across from me again on that guideline. Then I'm going to turn it so that they're at 9 and 3 o'clock, dotting at 12 o'clock, spin it, and I'm going to dot at 12 o'clock again. Okay, then I'm going to go here. I've got my guidelines from corner to corner, and I'm going to do it again here. Still dotting straight across from me to try and make sure that I'm keeping my straight lines. I find it much easier to keep a line straight if I go across from me than when I pull it down towards me. When I pull it down towards me, I tend to lean to one side or the other. So this helps me keep it nice and straight. Okay, so I'm dotting all of these, dotting them at 12 o'clock, spinning and spinning. Now is when the eyeballs come in. So when you draw your guidelines, this is something you can think about what you would want to have. If you want to have another set of guidelines in here, knowing that you're going to do a big circle like this and to have them for spacing, you could continue, instead of just going corner to corner, you could divide each of these sections in half with your protractor and mark out your angles and do your guidelines all the way across. Because if you don't, you're going to be eyeballing it. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to eyeball it, still directly across from me. So if I go over here, I can see that's too far to the left. If I go over here, it's too far to the right. So I'm able to pretty closely eyeball the center of that space. It's still too far to the right, but that's okay. It's not going to be that bad. You're always still going to lean a little bit, and that's okay. All right, so I'm going to keep dividing these sections in half. Keep dividing. Keep dividing. There we go. Of course, I'm listening to Jason Mraz while we're painting. I'm sure that's a shocker for many of you. Can you repeat? Is that your same base color from the purple? And how did you choose what size dot to do for this? Yes. Okay. So this is the same base as this one that we did last week. And then the size, I just kind of decided that I wanted to have a smaller size. I did not base the decision off of spacing, how I think it's going to work out. I just kind of liked the idea of starting really small again. So this would start me back at around the same level as about here. So I'm going to be able to build it out. I wanted it to have the starburst from the center and kind of come out and be more expanded out here. And then it's going to almost kind of tighten up a little bit again and then burst out a second time. So I just wanted to make it dramatic. That's kind of how I chose that. I hope that helps. Yeah, that's a great song, eh? His new album is phenomenal. It's called Look for the Good. If you just want to sit in the presence of pure joy and love and sung to you with some reggae, it's phenomenal. I think it's my favorite album of his of all time. Okay, so now I'm going to keep going and continue to divide. All right, continue to divide these sections in half. Still dotting straight across from me. And just continually dividing them in half. And just keep going all the way around, doing the same thing. Keep going. Mm-hmm. I also have started listening to a lot of Bob Proctor. If you are interested in law of attraction, that sort of stuff. I spend a lot of time listening to Abraham Hicks. That's a lot of law of attraction and mindset stuff. But Bob Proctor is another one in there. He was actually in the movie The Secret. But I've started listening to him. Anything that just makes you feel good, that's what you want to make sure is happening while you're doing this painting, right? Whether it's music that makes you feel good, or listening to a podcast that makes you feel good, or having a TV show on in the background. Just something that makes you feel good. Something that doesn't add to the stresses of your life, right? Something that just is enjoyable, to make all of this an enjoyable ritual. Is there a straight line in the middle? No, I'm eyeballing this. Right? So once you have those dots, like right now, I have these two dots as reference points. I am trying to eyeball the perfect middle between those two. You can continue to draw on as many guidelines at the beginning as you would like, and that could alleviate this for you too. That keeps the eyeballing away. Okay? So if you want it to be measured out for you, you can, or you can just eyeball it and look at approximately halfway. Now, here's where it's going to get a little sticky, and if you saw part 1, this is going to sound familiar because this is what happened. If I divide this in half again, here, I'll show you. So if I divide this in half, right, and I go to place it in here, I don't have room for those tiny white dots like I did down here. And that's okay. You could do a full solid line like this all the way across if this is where you find your spacing to be. So I always do a little test section. I continue to divide it in half until I literally have no more space left to add in more dots. And then I see what spacing is left. So in this case, there's very, very little spacing in there. And then I ask myself, does that go with the pattern that I want, or does that conflict with the pattern that I want to put in there? Okay? So I'm looking at this one and I'm saying, nope, this is not with the pattern that I want to go with. I don't want them that closely together. So this is where it can get a little bit tricky, because now what I need to do is, because if I divide them in half, and if I only put the one in, right, then the space is way too big. So I need to find a way to do something a little bit smaller. So this is where the tricky part comes in, is because I'm going to try and eyeball to add in 2. And it's not great, but it's okay. Okay. So I'm going to keep working that all the way around. But now that I've got one section done, I can see what the reference points are. I see the approximate amount of space between each of them. So instead of trying to divide a space now, I'm just trying to replicate the amount of space between the dots as best as I can. So for the first of the two in the middle, I am looking at how far is this dot from this one. Okay, and now I'm looking at what's the equidistance between these two and chuck that in the middle. Okay, yeah, adding more guidelines is not a bad way to go, especially in the beginning. So when you are dividing up your canvas or your piece with your protractor, you could do ones where you do a line every 10 degrees. You could continually divide it in half on your protractor until you get down super, super tiny and nice little slices. Totally up to you. And you're exactly right, Paula. Having more guidelines, especially when you're not sure of where you want to place it and all of that, definitely more guidelines, the better. If you put too many on there, if you put more than you need, don't worry about it. You can always erase them and you can ignore them. Just because you've penciled them in doesn't mean you have to use them, right? So I'm going to keep going here. And I'm going to we're going to get this row done. Because then I still want to talk top dots of the final color. We won't spend a lot of time on that, but if you've mixed your colors, you've got your next set of top dots and you're just going to repeat the process just a little bit smaller again, right? Still creating that edge so that the previous color will show through. Oops. So that the previous color will show through. But it's just so fun to add that last little bit. So in this row, I now have the space that I wanted to put the little white detail dots. Okay. Sometimes you'll see me like kind of do little circles with my tool. Sometimes if I haven't put enough paint on and I don't want to go in and redip and add too much paint and go too far in the other direction, I'll just kind of move my tool around in little circles, just kind of like to spread the paint around a little bit. So now that I know that I'm going to have those spaces, then every row going out, so I'm using a size 6 tool, so the next row I would go in with a size 7 or 8, and I would do a blue row again, and then I'll do a pink row, and then a blue row, and continue this pattern with gradually increasing those sizes over and over again. Sorry, Audrey is fighting one of the other cats through the gate. Sorry about that, guys. It's okay. It's okay. My cat is not a happy cat when Daisy's around. And Daisy is an instigator. She just sits in front of Audrey like, what are you going to do? So she sits in front of the gate because she wants to come in here and climb up on my lap. But I don't let her in while Audrey's in here with me because they do that. They scream at each other and they punch each other in the face and all the fun stuff. They make the horrible noises. That's the worst part. But enough about my cat. All right, here we go. So we're a little over halfway. I'm gonna actually pull this back again so you can see where we're at. And because I'm selfish and it makes it easier for me to paint this faster so we can get back to the top dots for you. And they don't have to be perfect, right? They don't have to be exactly the same size, but you're gonna get that muscle memory again. And every once in a while you might grab an extra glop of paint if you don't like it and you're not happy with how it looks, if it stands out to you too much. All you gotta do is paint over it and start again. So my thought with this And again, there's so many different options that you could do. And I'm really, really excited. If you guys are not already part of the Facebook group, please make sure you go and join that. Dot Mandala Addicts by Mandala Love Affair. I'll try to use my brain and put up another link again soon for that. But feel free to, in that group, post what you're working on, whether it's this project or a different project. Feel free to post what you're working on. We'd love to see it. And if you have questions, that's definitely a great place to do it, because I'm sure that if you have a question, then somebody else in that group has the same question, and we are all learning together. So if you want to join the Facebook group, we'd love to see ya. But it's a great place to post what you've done with your tutorial pieces too. Right? Show off your masterpieces. All right. It's really hard not to sing in your ears, and I promise you, you don't want to hear that. I love to sing, but I can't do it. I'm not good at it. However, I do it a lot for myself, for my own pure enjoyment. Don't do it as much as I did when I was living alone, though. That's definitely different now. I have a rogue hair here, and I can't find my tweezers. Tweezers are an awesome staple to have on hand. Oh, there they are. Perfect. I was panicked. I'm like, if they're not here, I don't know where they are. So I'm going to have to fix this section here, these little dots here. So I'll show you how I'm going to do that, because I'm going to do that once I finish off the spacing here with these ones. Because I'm impatient and I'm not going to wait for those to dry to just paint over them. So I'll show you what I'm going to do, and it'll speed up the process a tiny bit. Well, that didn't work out there either, did it? Okay, so I can see that these ones here, I've got bigger spaces here and here. So I'm actually going to start cleaning them off from here, and I'll just redo that section because I don't like that spacing. So what I'm going to do, you can do this with a cotton swab. You can do it with anything. I will often use, I've got a set of nail dotting stylus tools that have silicone brushes on the end. So that's what I'm going to use here. So don't have a heart attack, I promise. This is going to get better, but I'm doing this because it's pulling the paint off. It's going to leave less bumps underneath. It's still going to be some. You could even sand this if you wanted to, like if it had left too big of bumps and that's going to impact when you're putting other things down, you can do that. I will often honestly go in with like a popsicle stick and just kind of scrape off any extra that's there that could impact my dots down the road. I just give them a little scrape. Oh, pulled some of the back off. That's okay, because I'm going to be painting over this in black anyway. All right. So I'm going to grab my black paint, and I'll just redo it. And then while that's drying, we're going to go back into the final color of top dots in the very, very center. And then that should hopefully get you guys feeling like you are comfortable to finish off the piece on your own. If you are not, please reach out to me. Please reach out to me, anybody in the Facebook group. Please don't hesitate. I don't want you to be frustrated or feel like you can't move forward because you're not sure what to do. So please reach out to me. If you're a member of the Patreon, you can message me on Patreon. You can message me on Facebook, Instagram. I don't care. Please reach out. Okay? I don't want you guys to be frustrated and not being able to finish this. But hopefully with the top dots and the ideas that we've talked about here, it gives you some ideas. If you need some help in getting those ideas going, I promise I will be happy to help. All you got to do is ask. All right, so I'm going to let that dry. And while that is drying, we are going to go, I'm going to pull out the palette again and go to the very lightest color. And we are going to start there. Now, this is another time. Do not follow my example. If you have done this row out here, please be very aware that we are now reaching over that row to do some of these top dots, okay? Unfortunately, this is what happens when we have to do a tutorial from start to finish, is there's not a lot of time for sitting it aside to let it dry. And that's okay, but just be aware of the risks you're taking and if you're okay with taking them, okay? I'm okay with taking them because I know I'm gonna fix anything that I smudge up, so I'm not super worried. But we are gonna go down here, and we are gonna go down here. Look at that zoom. Oh, that's beautiful. Now let's make sure that you can still see if I bring my tool in here. Yes, okay, good. All right, so I'm going in with my lightest of the two purples that I mixed at the beginning. And I'm going in right now with my smallest tool. If you're using the DIY mandala stones, you would want to go in with the equivalent of a 1. If you have a micro daughter, you can buy these on Amazon. Jan got me this one and I'm hooked, completely hooked. It's a clay sculpting tool. See if I can get that in focus for you. You can go in with any of these, but you're going in with your smallest one because remember here, I've got those little tiny dots. Let me just show you here. So if I'm gonna dot on which one? This one right here. See how that dot is there? But it's tiny. Oh yes, an emery board. That's really, really a good idea. Let me scroll back. Is Carrie here? My favorite murder podcast. I've heard that's really really popular. Oh, Christy, I love you. I have a brother and sister set of cats over 10 years old. They still get feisty with each other every once in a while. It's terrifying, that noise though, right? Just my heart drops into my stomach. I sing louder than the radio with the windows down in the car. Atta girl. Yeah, I don't think that any of my friends and family truly understand how loud I listen to my music. Because if I can hear myself sing, the music's too quiet. I need to not be able to hear myself sing, so I crank it like concert level. And it's really funny because I was listening to a guided meditation and, you know, they said find something to focus on, like a fan or a buzzing noise that you can hear in the background, the fridge running, anything like that. And all I kept thinking is, oh, I can listen to the ringing in my own ears because I've done so much damage from going to so many concerts for so many years and for listening to my music so loud. It's crazy. Yeah, the emery board's a great idea. Why do you have an aversion to the center dots? You're skipping it again. I don't know why I do. You're right, though. So thank you. Let's go back there. I think because I don't do a top dot on all of my center dots. I think it depends on the project. It's not just an automatic thing for me, maybe? I don't know. I'm guessing. All right, so I'm going to find, again, another tool that is going to create a border like it did on the other, around the other circle. Let's see if we can get this. Let me see if I can get the right size tool here. I think I want to go about there. And of course, there's going to be more paint on the tool, so it's probably going to spread a little bit. There we go. Ooh, so pretty. So in this center dot, I'll still do, after this, I'll do one more top dot, and it'll be a very, very small white dot, if you want it. But I probably will on mine. Thanks, Jan. Thanks for the reminder. Bye, Barb. Enjoy the visit with your sister. Hi, Barb's sister. You crank it too. Nice. Yeah, right? Some good old 90s hip hop. Give me some raw bass and DJ Easy Rock, and I'm enjoying myself. Prepping some pieces with gesso for later. Very nice. Yeah, that turned out well. I'm impressed with myself too. These large dots and the top dots, they stress me out. I don't do a lot of large stuff, right? I do so much tiny stuff. So I'm using my micro dotter, and this is again another time when, especially when you're doing the top dots, especially on the tiny ones, you want to be cleaning your tool a lot, because a very small amount of paint buildup on your tool will have a huge impact on your top dots and the size and the shape of them. So now see these ones over here. Ooh, sorry if you're getting dizzy. I'm so sorry. See, this one was almost too large, right? Because it covered up the first layer of top dots. Now, I could also say that the first layer of top dots was not big enough, because look at how much extra space there was compared to some of the other ones, right? But it's okay, because in the grand scheme of things, these are all so tiny that we're really not going to see it. This is one heck of an angle, though. I'm totally going to film some TikToks from this close-up angle like this. Heck yeah. Love your happy sound effects. Yay. I do. I get giddy. I get giddy sometimes. All right. So now we're going to slowly move up the rows and add more top dots. So this time, instead of using the micro dotter, I'm going in with my small dotting tool. And there we go. This is another time too, you don't have to, when you're using the nail dotting tools, still you don't have to touch the tool to the surface, right? You can be just letting the paint flow off of it. I quite often will touch the tool all the way down though with the dotting tools. It can create a little bit of a dimple in the middle sometimes. It's usually not a huge deal. And when you get up super close like this, you see how imperfect the dots actually are, even though when we are way, way, way far back, it looks pretty good. This is something that I want to practice with. I want to practice so that it looks... I know my camera is drunk. A little too close? Okay, let's go back out here. How about that? Is that a little bit better now? But I'd like to get really, really good and really precise at all of my dots so that I could zoom in super, super close and still have really nice, clean, perfect circles. I think that would be incredibly satisfying. All right, so now I'm going in with my neon pink. I'm going slightly up in the dotting tool size. See what a subtle difference that is? It's so tiny, but when we zoom out... Okay, so let's zoom out a little bit. Oh, no, you're still not going to see it yet until it dries. But you can start to see that pink coming in. I'm the nervous passenger. I'm so sorry. I'll try not to move it anymore. Right, so just that little bit of color is going to make a difference for sure. And again, you don't have to stop here, right? You could come in and I could create more lighter shades of pink to keep going. I could go in with just a white top dot after these fluorescent pink ones dry. I could decide that none of them were bright enough and go and remix all of the top dots and paint them over again. That's okay too, right? But see the difference there? Just the slight glow over here compared to no top dot here. Right, and then there's that last one. See how it just looks a little flatter? And there we go. Yeah. And going back in, I would do more of a color difference. So if I was going to do this again, I would do more of a color difference on this one and more of a color difference on the bright pink. Pinks are tough sometimes because like when we look at it in the palette, it looks like it would be a significant difference. But, you know, trial and error, right? And figure out what we want to do for the next time. And again, I could go back in here and I could redo all of this later. I could go back in with a whole other second and third layer for the pink ones and redo all of those top dots. Could totally do that. Right? Totally up to you. That's the beauty of it. All right, let's keep going here. There, that looks nice. It's always so much easier when they get a little bit bigger. Like this size is super easy. I still struggle with picking the right size. Oops. I still struggle with picking the right size. But look at that. Isn't that cool how that just kind of glows now? Am I still in camera view here? Okay, good. I keep spinning it and it's not perfectly centered. I keep going out. So if you want to have access to the recording of this tutorial, two different options for you. You can, by end of day on Monday, it will be listed on my website where you can get access to it there. The other option is my Patreon. It's a monthly membership. I think it works out to $17.50 a month for Canadians, $13 a month for US. And that'll give you access to all tutorials, past, present, and future, as long as you're a member. So that might be an option for you too, but see what feels the best to you as far as an option. And you don't have to get the recording for either of them. You can just jump in and jump in on the lives and hang out when you can and ask questions in the Facebook group and just keep practicing and having fun. Either one is gonna do good for you. All right, so let's go in and do another layer of the purple. So imagine now this big purple circle that I've got going on around the outside edge. I'm gonna do all of the top dots on it as well, right? Which I think is going to look really cool. And again, you don't have to. You could completely change it up and say on those ones, I'm going to go darker. You could start mixing black in with these colors and go darker and have them look like they're caving in on themselves. That's an option. You can do alternate colors. You could say on the purple, I'm going to do a pink middle dot and another purple top dot or a blue top dot. Play around with them and see what you like. There we go. Let's see here. Let me just scroll back. Yeah, it still looks okay, right? But I totally see what you're seeing too, Manon. I'm like, yeah, it's not ideal, especially when I'm trying to create this effect, right? This one was definitely a lot brighter. And when I was mixing it, that was tougher than I expected it to be. That's okay. Thank you, guys. Paul's got to run. Grown kids and grand fur baby are here. Nice. Enjoy the fur baby and your grown family. How long have I been dotting? I've been dotting just over 2 years. Just barely 2 years. Thank you, Paula. All right. Does anybody have any questions that they want me to go over before we sign off for today? If you're not already following me on TikTok, if you are following me on TikTok, please make sure you get over there and tag a bunch of people on my post from yesterday. It is my giveaway post, giving away a bunch of tools and some surfaces to paint on and some stencils in conjunction with Dot Art Depot. Dot Art Depot is where I got those squeeze bottles from, if you'd seen me playing with those. Tons and tons and tons of Dot Art supplies, dotartdepot.com. No, I'm not being sponsored, but just telling you because some of their tools are as part of the giveaway. And I put some new items in the shop today. So if you know anybody who is waiting for more custom order slots to open up, you can let them know that they are there. I put up 2 gray, 2 teal, 2 plum, and 2 taupe. And I also put up the gray and pink mug. This baby is up on the website now. Woo, that's too close. Woo! I put this baby up on the website today, as well as this one. And the rainbow flower pot are up there now. I finally got my button gear and got them all up there. So all kinds of stuff that's new over there if you want to check that out, or if you know anybody who you think might like my stuff, it would be wonderful if you would share it. Next weekend, the tutorial is not going to be on Saturday. Next Saturday is my dad's birthday, and my mom is able to go and see him. So that means that I am tied up for the day on Saturday. Normally I do mom and dad stuff on Sundays, but next weekend, we're going to make sure that my mom gets to see my dad for his birthday. So next week's tutorial is going to be on Sunday. I'm going to put a poll up on the Facebook group as well. I'm going to do some thinking about what ideas I have for upcoming tutorials, and then get your guys' feedback for what we can do for next week. But if there's anything specific you would like on that list, please make sure you jump over to the Facebook group and or shoot me a message and let me know, okay? Oh, thank you, Linda. Sending you guys lots and lots of love. Thank you, Rex. I love spending time with you guys. I absolutely love it. And I'm just so grateful that you guys want to spend time with me too. So let's keep doing it. Let's keep doing it. I love you guys. Any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. Let me know. Next Sunday will be the tutorial from 1 to 3. We'll still do the same time, but on Sunday the 21st instead of Saturday the 20th. However, on Saturday the 20th, the evening of the 20th, probably at either 7 or 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Mall Rocks on Instagram and I are going to complete a stone. We did a couple joint lives together, and we've been working on some decorative stones together where we use the same colors and everything. The final joint live for this piece anyway, I think we're going to do them a lot, will be next Saturday evening. So there'll still be a live next Saturday, okay? I got to get some mug and tools. Have so much fun. So if you're going to paint on a mug, you want multi-surface acrylic paints. It's going to say multi-surface right on the bottle. Okay, so it'll say multi-surface, and on your multi-surface on the back, it should have some baking instructions to teach you how to cure the paint. Once these paints cure, they're technically top shelf dishwasher safe, but look at your bottles for sure, because they are not all created equal. Different brands have different baking instructions. So make sure you check those bottles, okay? For canvases and stones, painting on wood, anything like that, I just use regular craft acrylics that you can buy, like Craft Smart Paint, Folk Art, Deco Art, any of those that you can just buy at Michael's or even at the dollar stores. I use a lot of dollar store paints too. But play around, have some fun with it, jump onto the Facebook group, and if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. I love you, and I'm so grateful that you guys were here. And yeah, keep me posted if there's anything I can do to help you with these, and I can't wait to see what you've created. I love you guys. Take care of yourselves. Bye. Wonderful. It'll be great to see you, Geraldine. Take care of yourself and hug that daughter of yours for me, okay? Awesome. We'll look forward to seeing you guys again real soon.